Hey guys, SGT here, and we're back with your questions answered by BIX WEIR. Moving on to the rest of these categories, the crash and reset, the good guys and bad guys, Ron Paul in the future. Now before we begin, I just want to talk to you about this Ron Paul, Rand Paul debacle, because I know that your take on it is really different than mine. And to quote one of your recent emails here, you wrote, "Make no mistake, Romney and the bad guys will be taken down when the time is right. The stage is being set for a Ron Paul victory after the crash." And I love your enthusiasm, I love your optimism, but I'm just starting to see this thing just really fall apart. So what's your take on all this before we move on?
Well, the big turning point was the Rand Paul endorsement of Romney. And everybody has run with that and twisted it sideways. Rand Paul, yes, he endorsed Romney. The question is, why did he do it? And, my take is, and the Road to Ruda's take is, that he did it to embrace the Republican establishment, because we're going to need all Republicans to be on board when this thing takes over, when the crash hits and Ron Paul comes to the forefront. Right now, the Republican establishment is absolutely pissed off at the Ron Paul people, at the Tea Party, and until this endorsement happened, they would have been blocking Ron Paul all the way down the line. Now that Rand Paul is on board with the Republicans, they want to hug the Ron Paul people. They want to bring them in. They want the Tea Party support, because they're going to need that when election comes. So it's really interesting what's going on right now. The Republican Party has all of a sudden stopped blocking the Ron Paul festival that was going to go on for 3 days. Now this is a big event, and it was part of the strategy for Ron Paul to get everybody hyped up for the convention, and the Republican National Committee was blocking it. As of yesterday, they agreed that they want the Ron Paul people there, and they're going to support the Tea Party, and they're all going to go to the festival. And the party has done a complete 360 because they need the Ron Paul people. And my take is that Rand did this on purpose. You notice Rand's positions haven't changed on anything. Ron's positions haven't changed on anything. The only thing that did happen is Rand supported the Republican Party. And, if there is a monetary crash in the next few weeks, we're going to see everybody turn to Ron Paul, especially because the audit the Fed bill gets voted on in mid-July. Perfect timing as well. So I think it's all part of the plan. It's a big chess match where the Ron Paul people are thinking 4, 5, 6 steps ahead. And, yeah, you're gonna sacrifice some of your chess pieces. But in the end, it's going to prove really good for the movement, because we're going to fold in all the Republican establishment and all the Republican voters, because we need them on our side in this battle.
Okay, well, I hope you're right, and your theories are all going to play out here in the very near future, so everybody will know, how this turns out, because the end is near. So either things, turn out well, and we get to take our country back, we get to take the republic back, and it's ruled by, libertarian ideas and the Constitution, or Romney does control the whole thing, and we end up with a totalitarian government, because this two-party system is a joke, and I think people are fed up with this two-party system, and working within it is not possible. And to sell out, to pretend that you're working in it, whatever this angle was, that's why people are so outraged, because the last thing that Rand could have done or should have done, the last thing we wanted him to do, was to embrace Romney, right? That seemed to me to the only thing he couldn't do was that, because it betrayed everything. So if you're right, then great. I'm just so skeptical at this point, and I hope you're right. I just don't think you are.
The good thing about all this is it's going to prove out in the next couple months, so we don't have to wait years, to see if I was right about this, to see if, the more bizarre thing is what happened, is that Rand turned coat and, went to the dark side, and that's more unlikely than what I think is really happening, is that he's trying to pull the Republican establishment party in, because they're really mad about the way the Ron Paul strategy has panned out so far. They're really pissed off about it. So now they're all trying to hug, great big group hug, and we'll expect the same from them if Ron is our guy in August.
Okay, so the categories that remain, I just want everybody to know, we recorded BIX's answers to these questions a couple of weeks ago, and, we're not changing anything. We're going to just dive back in, and BIX, I think you feel like all of your answers to the questions, you wouldn't change a thing. So we're not changing anything here. I'm going to just dive back in with the crash and reset. And these are your answers as recorded 2 weeks ago, correct?
That is correct. And you can tell from the way we're talking, these were happier times before all this Rand Paul controversy came about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had so much hope, and, Ron Paul was, the hope. But as everybody's been saying, you can't put your hope in one man, and nobody ever said you could. I mean, we respected him as the leader of this thing, and right now there's a lot of people with shaken faith in that leadership. But onward we go. We have no other choice, right? Onward we go. Okay, we're moving on to this next category, the crash and the reset. I'm going to try to move quickly here so we can get everybody in. This one comes from Noel. He says, if the electronic assets such as bank, checking, savings accounts, stock brokerage accounts, 401ks, IRAs, stocks, all that stuff is going to be reset, destroyed with the coming reset of the world economy, he's wondering, should he take physical possession of stock certificates, and will they even be worth anything?
Well, there's a few things with the stock certificates. First of all, your brokerage house will be broke and bankrupt, so you won't be getting any stock certificate. Say you do take the certificate out, the DTCC is where all these certificates are held and cleared, is a complete fraud. There's so many failure to delivers, FTDs they call them, that owning a share of a company that you think you bought, good luck trying to cash in, because there's probably 100 other people who own that same exact share that you do. It is a complete fraud, and so I tell everybody, stay away from stocks, especially mining stocks held in a foreign country. Good luck.
Okay, and this one comes from Ivan. Do you think there will be QE before or after the election? I'm hearing talk of June now. What do you hear on QE3, BIX?
QE is constantly going on and has been since '71. So there's kind of a what you announce to the public and what you do in private. There's a lot of if you go to some of those white hat reports and things like that, you'll see the SWIFT receipts of trillions of dollars being transferred back and forth between these banks. The QE is a sideshow, and if they need $50 trillion in Europe, they're gonna wire it over there, create it out of nothing, and not tell anybody.
I'm going to follow up with Ivan on a second question and throw this next one. It's a good one. It's about inflation, and he's wondering, with so many trillions of dollars having been printed, why aren't we seeing greater inflation? And just to piggyback on his question, just listened to a great interview with John Williams and Jim Puplava, and Williams is sticking to the 2014 year that we will see hyperinflation in this country. Now, what is this about hyperinflation? Are we ever going to see it? They're printing trillions, and we haven't seen it.
Well, they control the price of almost all commodities on the exchanges with computer programs. So, yeah, there should be hyperinflation today. Silver should be $1,000 an ounce. Gold should be $20,000 an ounce. They control the prices, and it kind of all trickles down. They control the prices of wheat and corn and meat and everything. And all that money that is being printed is going mainly to the banks to solve their problems. And very little of that is trickling down to people to give them the purchasing power to go in and bid up these things. But the prices are controlled on the comics.
Okay, so they run the show until the day when they don't, and that's when all hell.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, thief in the night. Okay, this one comes from Will. Will says, we're all tired of being underpaid debt slaves. According to your theory, the system should collapse with a possible reset by August, allowing for Ron Paul's rise at the RNC in Tampa. What do we do in the meantime at this point? Do we stop paying our bills, our credit cards? What do we do? I don't recommend that. What's your recommendation?
I don't recommend it, mainly, and it's the same thing that people, when they ask me, should I run up my credit cards and mortgage my house to buy silver, there's a karma issue related to all that, and should you run up your credit card and then walk away from it and just buy silver and go away? Some people do it. Some people have done it. They can come after you with today's new laws. Will those laws be around after the crash? I don't think so, if the good guys win. But there is a karma issue. We have to play in the game right that we're presented right now today. And today, they're still in charge. The system is still in place, and until it is removed, which I believe is coming, you're going to have to play by their rules. So that's up to you. You need to make that call.
Well, this next one is serendipitously placed. It's Jerry, and he asks something similar. You've said that when all paper assets collapse, all debts will be wiped out as well. Can you explain how that will be? Is that through a hyperinflationary scenario where debts will be paid back with hyperinflated dollars, or something entirely different?
No, it's completely different. It's completely organic. The way this has been set up to happen is that it's the banking system that fails. So, because of the European derivatives, which will start it off, if you have, say, J.P. Morgan goes down, every single bank is interconnected. So all of a sudden, you will have nothing. You will go to your bank, and your bank will be bankrupt, and there'll be nothing. There's nothing in the FDIC. They'd have to go back to Congress. They're already billions in the red. So it will be all very organic, and when these large banks go down, it'll take out every other bank there is, because their customers are interconnected, their dealings with each other are interconnected, and that's what they were trying to stop in 2008. This time they're not going to stop it. The people weren't ready in 2008 for this to happen. We're ready now. We're ready to stand up and say, all right, Mr. Banker, time for you to go away. And it has to happen that way. So if you have, say you bank with J.P. Morgan, and they hold your mortgage and they hold your savings account and your 401k, they go down. They go away. They don't have the money to pay off all their debt. They are insolvent.
Okay, this one comes from Nunya, and I think NESARA is bogus. What do you say? Does NESARA fit into the good guy plan?
It's not bogus. The NESARA plan, basically, from what I've read, it was an idea started in the 90s to take all your debt, remove all the compound interest you've paid to give you a new balance. It's kind of like a revaluation restart. I don't think that will take place. It was a good idea at the time, maybe.
BIX, this one comes from Adriana. She says, if I have the choice to leave the country, when is the best time to do it? Should I do it now? Things are getting dicey.
No. If you're talking about, if you're in the USA, we will be going through a transition. And according to the Road to Ruta, we're going to return to our constitutional government. It would be the best place to be in the United States. If the crash happens and the bad guys take over, there'll be no place to run. Everybody will be in chaos. But if what I'm analyzing comes true, and after the crash, people stand up, we elect someone like Ron Paul, we will return to our Constitution, because we'll have learned a lesson, and it'll be a great place to live.
This one comes from Tony, and he wants to know, with the new $100 bill having all that gold symbolism in it, do you believe that elites will push for a gold-only backed currency, therefore relegating silver to industrial value only?
No, they don't get to decide, and that's part of the $100 bill, all the gold and it also says on that bill that we reserve the right to overthrow our government, and that's what really is going to happen. The elites will have no more say. They will be removed from office, and then we'll be going back to an organic form of U.S. money, which is gold and silver.
Okay, and this one comes from Ben. It's a good question, I think. He says, seems intuitive that Helicopter Ben is constantly running the USD printing press, and that with the insurmountable trillions in debt that the USD, at least in its current form, is doomed. However, rumors to the contrary are beginning to surface, stating that despite being very damaged, the greenback is far from doomed and very savable. He's wondering, is this a rumor, a conspiracy theorist, or is it all part of the Hegelian New World Order dialectic? We cause the problem, we pose as the saviors. What's going on here with the dollar?
Well, I think it's both. Both the good guys and the bad guys want to crash the system for their own purposes. The system will crash. It's breaking down right now. The banks are literally on their last legs. The European banks will go first, and then, as Lindsay Williams said, it'll probably be a couple weeks before the U.S. banks go. The system is crashing. The question is going to become, as I've talked about before, are we going to turn to the bad guys, or are we going to turn to the good guys? The bad guys want one world government, we'll take care of you. The good guys want a return to the Constitution.
All right, this one comes from Praxis. Slash and burn tactics are pretty typical in history. Genocide is deemed as a good thing by the bad guys according to their own writings and documents, the Rockefeller Foundation, etc. There exists quite a few highly weaponized I win, and if I lose, everyone loses buttons, weather, chemical, nuclear, electromagnetic, bio. Fukushima is now a nightmare. What is your take on all of this human conflict?
It's the battle between the good guys and the bad guys. The bad guys really are that evil. Just look at what happened on 9/11. Look at, was Fukushima a nuclear, did they set off some nuclear explosions, as Ben Fulford said? I don't know, but, there's some evidence pointing to that, and it is a battle, truly a vicious battle between good and bad, and if the good guys can't take them out by the end of this year, we'd be in serious trouble. And I'll continue to fight, but it wouldn't be looking that good if we can't get this done this year.
Now we're moving into this next category, the good guys and the bad guys. Hey, real briefly, because I know it was a question somebody asked, and I'm not sure if we made it into our batch here, touch on that dinar thing, because I get those questions still about the dinar. Is it a place to put your money? And I certainly don't think so. What's your take on the dinar and any forthcoming revaluation of the Iraqi dinar?
That's one of the schemes, is the revaluation of the dinar based on the oil reserves and some gold and things like that. No, it won't work, because there can't be deciders. There can't be people who are deciding what to use as money and what piece of paper is going to have more value than others. And when this crashes, the anger will be towards those elite and the power and the moneyed people. They're not going to get to decide. It's going to be the poor people, the people who have nothing, who get to decide what we use as money going forward.
Okay, and this one's a lot of fun. This one comes from Daza. Daza, boy, I'm telling you what, you guys want a mind bender. Get your mind around this. Talk about conspiracy theories. BIX, have you ever thought about who the bad guys really are? Maybe J.P. Morgan and the Fed and all of the currently demonized bad guys are actually the good guys who are trying to protect us from the really bad guys.
Truthfully, I kind of exposed a little of that already, in that, in the Road to Root theory, it's Alan Greenspan inventing computer programs in the 60s and 70s designed to take out the bad guys, when 99% of the people in the world still today believe that Alan Greenspan is kind of the evil part of the banking cabal and the Federal Reserve. And kind of I show through the Road to Root analysis, through the publications from the Fed Boston, that no, it is Greenspan who's taken these guys out with his computer programs, that he was the guy who invented financial computing. So anything is possible. And at times it's really confusing as to who's a good guy and who's a bad guy. And very few times do I think someone's a good guy and he turns out to be a bad guy. It's more the opposite. Paul Volcker, for example, for years I thought he worked for the Rothschilds after the heading the Fed. So I thought he had to be a bad guy until I did more and more research, and I called him out as being a good guy before the Volcker rule was even thought about. So some of these people you think are bad might actually be good and working against the banking cabal.
Well, now, you and I have always disagreed on that one point. Just this one point for me specifically is this idea that Greenspan could possibly be a good guy. But we're all entitled to our opinions, and you've done probably more research than I have. But I heard David Icke once say that Greenspan is a Luciferian. I don't know. It's all hearsay to me. But we'll move on. This one comes from Freedom Scribe. Freedom Scribe is wondering, besides Ron Paul, who exactly are the good guys? And don't tell me it's Dianne Feinstein, Barbara Boxer, Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, Hillary, and Obama.
Well, some of them are, believe it or not, from my analysis. And, it might come out at the end that I'm wrong about this, but I don't see it. Feinstein has put in place some of the key good guys in the key places. Bart Chilton, Gary Gensler. I know people don't think he's a good guy, but he is working the Road to Root theory, and it'll be shown in the future. Harry Reid, he's a good guy. He's working with his state of Nevada has got all our resources, so he's working with the good guys. Hillary and Obama, no, they're bad guys. Although Obama is interesting. There's a lot of talk now about Obama being a good guy. Obama was born and raised to be a bad guy. There's no doubt about that. Where he came from, who taught him, he is a bad guy. But I believe that the good guys are telling him what to do in the end, and they're going to tell him either to stand down or to go through the election and run against Ron Paul when the time has come. But obviously he was born and raised a bad guy, so that's my take on Obama. But as far as who the original good guys are, Greenspan, Arthur Burns, Stephen DuVoe, Harold J. Sullivan was one of the good guys, George Goodwin Jr., Gerald Ford. Those are the original guys. And then there's Ron Paul, Reagan, Feinstein, and Barney Frank, Barney Frank actually was the guy in charge of the Silver Eagle program.
Why did Brian Sack really resign from the New York Fed? Kimo wants to know.
He's a bad guy. basically, and the bad guys are being taken out. That's the same with the 600 resignations.
Okay, final question for this chapter here. Greaseman wants to know, what's your best guess for a time frame after collapse that it would take before a new form of medium or exchange could be established? Is it going to happen in 24 hours or a week, or what do you think?
Well, it'll be different for every country because it'll be up to the country and their people to decide what they want to use. The U.S. has the Constitution with gold and silver as money, and the U.S. has been planning this since the early 70s. Theoretically, we should be ready for it. Now, a few things have to happen, so my take is a few weeks to a few months before a new form of currency is officially adapted by the U.S.
Okay, guys, that concludes categories 3 and 4. Click here for categories 5 and 6, Ron Paul and the future.
Thanks for watching.